for 13 years prior to joining Canrig. Max is working in Canrig for over 2 years. He received his bachelor's and master's degree in electrical engineering from Rice University. In his spare time, he plays keyboard and sings in rock band, sings in hall and weekly for retirement home, and spends many hours on his genealogical research and volunteer work. Welcome, Max.
Are you getting the most benefit from music in your life? This is my third speech, which is the theme on getting to the point. And I hope to inspire you to consider how you might be able to take more advantage of music in your life. Music entered my life long before I was born. My grandfather had played violin in the army in Lithuania. My mother had played clarinet in the All Houston City Band. When I was almost 7 years old, we got our first piano, and all the kids had piano lessons. The rest of the kids were allowed to quit, but fortunately they didn't let me quit because they said I was the only one that had talent. By age 11, I was singing in the synagogue choir, and at 12, I started playing violin in the elementary school orchestra, and I remember writing my first song. It was a Halloween song, and I can remember it to this day. And then I went to junior high, where we also had an orchestra, so I played violin in the junior high orchestra. And toward the end of junior high, they had a presentation from the high school for the performing and visual arts. And I had dreams of going there, but my parents didn't encourage me because they wanted me to get a real job. So that didn't happen. So then I went to senior high school, where I had cousins and I were hanging around at the Jewish Community Center, and they were having auditions for a play. And my cousins convinced me to audition, and I got the role in Sweet Charity. And then the following play, I got a singing role, the Ziegfeld tenor and funny girl. In the following play, I got the lead role. It was Anything Goes, and I had long hair probably halfway down my back, and so I ended up stuffing it over the wig, so it was a very tall wig with the hair stuffed in it. And then the final role was the part of Schroeder in Your Good Man, Charlie Brown. And some said it was typecasting. And I also played in rock bands at around that period, age 15 through 18. We played many parties, and I grew my hair as I mentioned. And then I went to college at Rice, and in my freshman year, they had a production of Your Good Man, Charlie Brown, so I got the role of Schroeder again. So it was a little bit easier since I remembered most of it. I only had done it probably a year beforehand. At the end of my first semester, my high school girlfriend of 3 years had broken up with me, so I went through some depression, and this is where music came in to help me with the cathartic release from the depression. I started taking piano lessons again, which I had quit when I was 15 when I got in the rock and roll bands. And then my piano teacher passed away. So I started taking voice and piano for a non-major at Rice and an electronic music composition class. And in my graduate year, I was taking an electronic music class, and I met my first wife and wrote some songs to her for the electronic music composition class, and one of which I sang at the wedding. I recorded the piano part and sang it live as she walked down the aisle at the wedding. Several years later, we were on a cruise, and we performed some of the songs I had written, including that song. And went to a piano bar afterwards and played a little bit, and then the piano player came back from his break and was upset that I was on his piano. And the next morning, the recording of the talent show was on the closed circuit TVs in the cabinet room. It was kind of neat to see us on the closed circuit TV, so I really enjoyed that. In the first marriage, I quit playing in bands, and so I didn't have a musical outlet, so I became depressed and musically frustrated. My ex-wife and I were in a play together at the synagogue where we had joined. I had, the previous synagogue, I had been a lay cantor, a lay leader for a while, and then after a couple of years it disbanded, so we joined another one where I was able to be in the play with my ex-wife. But then I got homesick from my original choir, original synagogue, so I went back over there. And as the marriage fell apart, I again reverted back into my music. I joined a band. I started writing some songs as a cathartic release from the depression and helped me get through it. Then I met my wife, who was also a musician. I forgot to mention my first wife was a musician. On the first night I met her, she took me in the back room and played guitar and sang for me. And when she had said she had toured the Southeast, my mind thought she was had toured as a recording artist. It turns out she was just a tourist, but I wanted to believe otherwise. And then when I met my second wife, right after our first date, I took her back to my apartment and played some songs that were popular on the radio that I really enjoyed. And about a year into the marriage, the band I was in sort of disbanded, and the cantor of the synagogue had throat surgery, and so he was no longer able to sing, and then the choir disbanded. So we rejoined the synagogue that I had been in previously with my ex-wife, and I joined the choir there, which I've been in for about 14 years now. And I've been in a couple of bands in this marriage, about 3 bands, this last one being about 7 years. And this has given me the opportunity to experience the joy of playing songs I played over 30 years ago back in college, and the challenges of learning new songs, especially when a song has piano and organ and strings and horns, and I got to figure out which 2 or 3 I can play at one time on my 2 keyboards. So that's an interesting thing. And I've also had the opportunity to be in 4 plays in the recent years, and when we rejoined the synagogue, there was a play there that I played a part of Moses in, and my wife was in it with me. Then I played the part of a rabbi in a play performed at the Jewish Community Center, and then the same role again at Miller Outdoor Theater, and then a sequel to the play that I had been originally, but this time I got the lead role of Bart in Bart's Wedding, and it was a lot of fun. And a couple of years ago, my dad went into a retirement home, and they have sing-alongs every Saturday. So initially I went to sing along, and then they recruited me to help lead it, and then they also twisted my arm to do solos every week. So I do 3 or 4 solo songs or lead them. And so with the playing in the band, singing for the retirement home every Saturday, singing in the choir, I'm no longer musically frustrated like I had been in between marriages or at the end of the beginning part of my first marriage. So these are just some ways that music has been a benefit in my life. Hopefully I've exhibited the joy, the challenges, and the cathartic release from the depression and stress that music has provided me. Thanks.